എല്ലാവർക്കും പുതിയൊരു വീഡിയോയിലേക്ക് ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് സ്വാഗതം. I just said that in my mother tongue because that's how I usually begin my videos. If you're here, it probably means you watched the latest 5 episodes of Stranger Things. And just like you, I've got some theories, I've got questions, and I believe I do also have some answers and some predictions about what's going to happen in the upcoming 2 volumes. Before we begin, let me give you a small intro about myself. I am Amli. Adab. Namaste. I obsess about all things horror. It is my favorite genre, and I watch at least 2 horror movies a week for my mental health. And as someone who's been obsessing about Stranger Things since the day it aired, I've watched, rewatched, analyzed, micro-analyzed everything about Stranger Things, and therefore I believe I have some fairly solid theories about what's going to happen in the upcoming 2 volumes. So you and I are going to sit together and discuss some of those theories and some of those questions that's been on our minds. Let's go. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's get right into it. The first thing that everyone noticed was, of course, Vecna's appearance. He seems to have lost some weight. He also looks a lot more chic. But, you know, all the fancy appearance aesthetics aside, what changed most about him, if you ask me, my answer is that when you first saw him, he had little bits of human tissue and skin on him. And now he's made of more upside down particles. I don't know how else to put it, but he seems more like an upside down creature and less a human creature. Not human creature. And I believe that is because, you know, common sense. In the last time you saw him, he was being burnt by Stephen Party. So when they did that, it kind of removed the last bits of human tissue from his physical being. And right now, however he evolved post that burn, it's left him with more upside down particles than, say, human matter. And of course, his waist is a lot slimmer that I have no idea how to explain. But it looks good, so we're not going to, dwell too much on it. So yeah, that was the first. The change in Vecna's appearance was A, because of his burn injuries, and 2, he's somehow become more powerful. It took out the last bits of humanity out of him, and he's like a full-on upside-down creature right now. Okay, my next theory is gonna take a little bit of explaining, so pay close attention, okay? I heard Noah Schnapp mention in one of the interviews that Vecna is probably the most misunderstood villain in the history of villains. And it made me wonder if Vecna is not that bad. It's probably something else that's causing him to behave this way and, drive him to do the things that he's doing right now. And combining that with the things that you associate Vecna with, I have a theory that Vecna is himself trying to undo something that happened to him. What do we associate Vecna with? Flickering lights, yes, and then a strange sense of, everything slowing down, and clocks. You always hear clocks chime when Vecna is around. And he is himself shown as someone who's got clocks around him. And if you go to his house in the Upside Down, a lot of things were there obviously in his house. Not all of them are remaining there, but clocks, that big grandfather clock is still hovering around in that space where his house stood. What if you combine this with what Sadie said about him being stuck in a cave, and when she ran into the cave, he wouldn't step inside because something about the cave scared him so much that he just stood outside looking traumatized. This is Vecna. He looks like he's ready to kill you any instant. But when he stood in front of that cave, he looked like a broken man. What if he went into that cave? He was missing in that cave for 8 hours. If you've read up about the backstory or the play, you'll know that this happened to him when he was a little boy. Henry was lost in a cave in Nevada. And when he came outside, he was a changed man. And it is said that when he was in the cave, he had an encounter with the mind flayer. And because of that, his brain was fried. It took the humanity out of him. It changed him into the evil person that you see his father describe him as. What if Vecna or Henry is trying to somehow go back in time and undo what happened to him in that cave so that the entire thing that follows afterward, the lab, the experiments, the children, he was number one. So all of the other children somehow seem to me like derivatives of him, or at least versions of him. All of that could be avoided, and he's doing that to avoid all that pain both on himself and the others. Is it possible? Like, because why else is a clock there? Why else is he scared of that cave? Why else is he trying to alter things? And why else would he keep coming back to the real world? Because if he's happy with upside down and his kingdom, as he calls it, he can stay there, he can do whatever he wishes, he can spawn as many creatures as he wants. But no, he's trying to come back into the real world and change some things about it. What if he's trying to undo what happened to him in that cave? If that is true, it would make sense that Noah Schnapp would call him the most misunderstood villain in history, because he's not a bad person. Bad things happen to him, and he's just trying to cope and fix it in whatever ways he is capable of doing. My next theory, it wasn't a theory until I watched the episode where Sadie is traversing through Vecna's memories. If you notice that she picks up this, I think, not Thanksgiving, prom thing from the floor, and the date on it mentions sometime around the 50s, and I think it also has Joyce's name on it. I'm thinking that Joyce, Hopper, maybe Vecna, Henry, all of them are roughly the same age. Yeah, maybe they all went to school together, because when Henry does move to Hawkins after his fiasco and after his bad experiences in Nevada, he should have joined school. So maybe he did go to school with in the parents of all the the main cast. If that is the case, that would make him old enough to be the parent of these kids. More specifically, I think Will Byers and 11 are Vecna's children, because when 11 was born, Vecna was 24 years old. Sure, it's young, but again, I had my baby at 24, so he is old enough to father children, and I'm thinking that um, Dr. Brenner was conducting experiments on one, and then he used him to make babies, and maybe used Elle's mom as a surrogate, and maybe she had twins. She doesn't remember, sure, because her brain was fried from all of the experimentation and the medication and whatever was happening with her. He had two kids. Vecna had two kids. They were twins. One was 11, the other was Will. And straight away, 11 shows psychic capabilities. Will doesn't, and Will somehow gets adopted by Joyce Byers. I don't know why I'm saying this, because I have this gut feeling that they are somehow siblings. Because um, when Vecna gets pushed to the upside down by 11, he wants to do something to change his fate, so he comes back and gets Will first, not the other kids. He knew there's a lab there with children with psychic capabilities. He doesn't go there. He comes outside and goes straight for Will. Maybe he was coming out and reaching out for his other child, because clearly teaming up with 11 did not work. One of the reasons why he chose 11 in the first place was because somewhere he knew deep down that it was his child, and he wanted to save the child and take the child out of the lab with him. But when that child refuses and instead burns him and sends him to the upside down, he's hurt, he's injured, but when he comes back, this time around, he tries to do things differently by taking the help of his other child. I can't prove it, but I believe Jane and Will are siblings. Twins, to be more precise. Predictions for the upcoming volumes. A lot of people are saying that this is going to end in the very first episode, and it will be shown as if the children were just having hyper imagination and they imagined the entire series of the last 5 seasons. But no, I don't think so. I believe that, sure, it will end back. I've heard the Duffer brothers say that their favorite scene in the entire series is the very first scene where the children are introduced, not the lab one. The series opens with a scientist being chased in a lab. I'm not talking about that one. The one where the children are introduced, where they're sitting in the Wheeler's basement and playing their game of Dungeons and Dragons. I think it will end back there, in the sense that they would all have fought it out. Vecna manages to reverse time, which would erase 11 out of the equation, because 11 was never born, because nothing happened to Henry in the cave in Nevada, because he does not encounter the mind flayer. He goes on to live a normal life. All of these kids, they're just existing in a world without 11 and whatever the things that happen. So when time gets reversed, they all come back there, but now with the realization that all of this happened, but time has now been reversed. This is a possible ending. Another thing that could happen is now that 11, 8, and we also have Will Byers with newfound powers, the trio could come together and take down Vecna. If that happens, sure, then again the danger is mitigated. And like 11 and Mike were discussing on the roof of the squawk, they would probably go on to have happy lives. I want this one. I want Vecna to be defeated, but I also want to know if, he was in fact someone that faced a lot of mental damage when he encounters the mind flayer in the cave. Does any of my theories make sense to you, or is it just me? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, these are my theories. Yeah, so that's about that. I'm really excited. I think it is an injustice that we have to wait so many days before the next volume comes out. I am dying. The last season came out when I was pregnant with my second child, 2022. Yesterday, she watched it with me. She's 3 now. Oh my God. But yeah, we also know that this is going to be the end of Stranger Things. So that's sad. It's traumatizing me. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. That's that. Appa pinne kaanam. Adab, namaste, bye. Drink water, wear sunscreen. I'm a lot more funny when I speak my mother tongue. When I'm speaking English, I'm always calculating my words in my brain. Anyway, yeah, that's that. Bye. Come and tell me what you think about Stranger Things.